All right, Gary Mallory,
Here.
Jeff Davis,
Here.
Art Ruiz,
Here.
Jim Huffman, Chet Trutzel,
Here.
Bob Houston. Okay.
Okay, we have one. Everyone should have had a copy of the minutes from the previous meeting on the 18th of February. Are there any changes or corrections? If not, somebody move to approve them, please.
So move. Art.
Second.
All those in favor say
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
motion passes. Minutes are approved. City engineer report.
To give you an update on those two items that you have listed there, one is for right-of-way and one's for Olson Engineers. For the right-of-way, there are 3 outstanding properties, one owned by the Grahams, one owned by the Gillespies, and actually 3 tracts owned by Solis. The Grahams and the Gillespies were not being able to come to a negotiated settlement of the property's value. So those are going to be given a 60-day notice for condemnation. The Solis have asked for additional information on pricing. We provided them detailed maps and drawings of exactly what property was going to be needed to be acquired to build the roadway. And they are wanting additional information on what we believe the value is, and they probably have an idea and what they believe the value is. And so that needs to be negotiated. So that's the step that property's at right now. So that's where we're at in right away. As far as Olson Engineers, there's no further activity with them right now because, I'm sorry?
Greg, before you go any further, when does the clock start on Graham and Gillespie?
When I get I haven't sent the letter yet, so it'll be here shortly.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you.
For Olson, they've completed the plans that go to Cambridge or just south of Cambridge. And as far as the plans south of there, I do have a set of plans, and I don't know how far along they are, but there's no activity south of Cambridge right now with any plans in that area. So there's really no action with Olson right now that I'm taking. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, anyone?
Gary?
Greg, I'm assuming when you say there's no action south of Cambridge, that we're not looking at any right of way there now at this point?
I do not have a set of plans that are far enough along to purchase right away.
Hello?
I didn't hear what someone said.
Gary, are you still on the line?
Okay.
Okay, there you are. Can you
I'm
repeat
fine.
what you just said?
Hello?
Okay, Gary, we've just now got you back. Can you go ahead and repeat what you just said about those properties south? You had a question and we didn't catch it.
This right away on Mullen, south of Cambridge. We're not doing anything right now on that.
Right. No, we're not at this time because there are no plans that engineered drawings to go down to show us what we would need. So based upon the last conversation that we had where you wanted to go ahead and proceed, that means we have to finish engineering the rest of that so that we know what property we would need to get right of way for. The last set of plans that we had stopped at the circle.
Okay, but my understanding was that we were going to take a look at going on south and taking all the property that we needed to acquire from Graham on the east side of Mullen.
Right, and we talked to the Olson engineer, Ryan Fleming, and I believe that he has started on that, but he's not, I don't know what percentage he would be at to have completed that. So right of way's not occurred yet, but we can have that for you at the next meeting.
Okay, great.
And along with that, Gary, we'll have an estimated cost of what it will be to finish doing a set of drawings down Mullen. Because that will come at an additional cost as well.
Yes.
Oh dear.
Greg, what are Salisa's using as their evaluation for their property value?
He has not given us a price of what he believes it is. He was just looking at the amount of land taken from each one of the lots. And so he's wanting us to propose a price to him before he would propose a price back to us.
What I'm trying to figure out is what's he trying to base it on? And, you know, we've got an appraiser who based it on the information he's got. I was wondering, is it just, I want more money, I feel like I should get more money?
Well, I believe it is based upon those lots he believed were large lots. In that part of the subdivision was supposed to be large lots. And we're removing part of the backyard, so they won't be as large as they were. And so he's saying that there's an impact to the overall value per lot versus a 15-foot strip of land. You understand the difference?
Okay, well, yeah, all right. He
So,
wants more, he just wants more money, that's all.
And so here we're looking at, you know, we're kind of wrapping up we've gone as far with our informal negotiations as we can. And now we're going to have to wrap up with procedural notices. Anything beyond that type of information, you will want to go into executive session at the end of this. I wouldn't discuss it any further. Would be my suggestion.
Very good.
I'm not sure how Mr. Moore feels about that. Bill, you're on mute.
Oh,
There you go.
there, I think, okay. So, yeah, I think if we're going to get into any detail, we should go and have that in the executive session. But Mr. Chairman, I think at this point for this meeting, probably we don't need to, I think, have any more detailed discussion on this. And perhaps we could hold this off to the next meeting because it sounds like we might have a little bit more information about the entirety of the plan. And when we're talking about the compensation, we've made an offer based on fair market value, and whatever their response is going to be their response. And
Mr.
I
Miller?
think Greg has already indicated we're gonna go proceed with condemnation.
Yes. All right, Bill, you ready for the financial report?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, very good. In advance of today's meeting, I sent out to members of the board via Becky financial statements for the period ending March 31st and April 30th. They're in the same form and structure that you routinely receive, but I did want to kind of get those out in advance so people could look those through. At this point, I'll stop and see if there are any questions or concerns on those financial statements.
Any questions for Bill?
Seeing none, I would like to walk through a couple of items that are of interest on those financial statements. My comments will be related to the April 30th, 2020 financial statements. As you can see on the asset side of it, the special revenue account, the Country Club Bank, which is essentially the Menards TIF revenues, is now just over $800,000. And I would call your attention to that number because I believe there's some other action later in the meeting, and that number I will re-reference. I would note that our sales tax collections generally are holding up relatively well given the COVID information. We'll know more when we see the May numbers as they come out. But as you can see, our year-to-date number, we are essentially where we thought we would be on sales tax revenue. We are a little ahead of where we thought we would be on the Menards Project TIF revenue. And we did receive some surplus funds back from one of the TIFs that were closed out. So in aggregate, we are above our forecast slightly on revenue as they run. So again, our revenues are up about $50,000 year over year, which is about 10%, but those are some of those are one-time events. On page 5, we do have a listing of vendors on each March and April. I would notify the board and ask for ratification of the March payments as well. Chairman Mallory authorized us to distribute those funds so that we weren't delinquent on paying any of our bills. So yeah, I hope that would be included in any motion. And again, year over year, our March numbers were actually down on sales tax and our April numbers were above on sales tax, pretty even. We'll give further information on that when the May numbers are tabulated. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my remarks for today's meeting.
Are there any questions for Bill? If not, a motion would be appropriate to authorize the receipt of the financial report and approve disbursements for March and April of 2020.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any objections? Being none, the motion passes. Next item, Mr. Moore. Legal report.
The only thing that I have under legal report is Resolution 2020-01 that you have before you. And this is authorizing the Fifth Amendment to the cooperative agreement between the city and the district. So if you want to look at the Exhibit E, it's actually an amendment to Exhibit E1 of the cooperative agreement. And as you may recall, Exhibit E1 is kind of the score sheet that we've been using as the district expends its revenues, particularly with respect to the amount of dollars that have been kind of set aside that the city, that is owed to the city for its contributions that it made for Mullen and Markey Parkway construction. So this is we've had this conversation going on here, I think, for the last 30 days or so. And Alexa probably can speak to this issue, but the request has been made to clarify and update that Exhibit E1 to show that the Peculiar Drive realignment, and I think we're calling it closure at 58 Highway, be authorized as an approved project for funding by the district for the city, and it would occur in 2020. If you recall, we had over the course of the last probably year or more, we've had other projects that have been listed on Exhibit E1. Those projects have not actually gone forward. And so this one is what we're doing now is just replacing those with this one for $500,000, which I believe, Alexa, is for some grant funds for the city to be able to get some federal dollars. And with that, I'll leave it to Alexa to probably explain it better than I just did.
Well, you did a fine job, Mr. Moore. Thank you so much. And yes, you are right. The city's in the process. You'll recall that the prior project we referred to as the Larkspur extension, when the city applied for grant to do that area through there, the Larkspur extension actually ended up was removed and placed as a later phased approach to this project at the request of the Missouri Department of Transportation at closing that intersection there at Peculiar Drive and rerouting Peculiar Drive through there. we have already so we did receive those grants and we require matching dollars. We were utilizing the TDD funding for those matching dollars for that project area. It includes not only the realignment of Peculiar Drive, but also improvements to 58 Highway, the right-ins through there, improvement there at the light at Powell. And so the prior it was looking at the project year being 2022. And in all reality, we are moving forward. Engineering is already occurring and we are needing those dollars now to be able to continue on with that project. And so you'll notice in Exhibit E1 that fiscal year need is 2020 for the Peculiar Drive realignment and the closure at 58 Highway. But it does, as I had a sidebar conversation with Mr. Miller last week, may have been 2 weeks ago. Sorry, Bill, the time runs together. That does include the improvements to 58 Highway as well. That's all one project. The only thing that was taken from that, so it's the Peculiar Drive, the realignment, the improvements to 58, but it doesn't include the connection on over through Larkspur.
Questions? We have a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
A second?
I'll give a second.
Mr. Chairman, you have a motion by Mr. Trutzel and a second by Mayor Davis.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. Next item
Mr.
on,
Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, this is Bill Miller. May I make a comment now?
yes, sir.
All right, so as a result of that action, we will update our budget that we had prepared. And at the next meeting, we'll give you a recommendation on how we believe we should fund the action we just took.
Right, thank you, sir. Is there any new business from the board?
The only other question I would ask is, this is Alexa, I'm sorry, let me turn my video back on, is, Mr. Miller, when might we see the money?
Well, I think the board generally approves all the distributions. So we have that prepared for the next monthly board meeting, if that will suffice.
That will work. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank
The
you.
check's in the mail.
Yeah.
All right, there's nothing new, then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So move.
Second.
Unanimous, we're adjourned. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Be safe.